everyone. Today we will study a theme of biology called biological organization, which is one of the 5 unifying themes of biology which we have discussed earlier. Now see, this entire living world, the life on earth, it can extend from the microscopic scale of atoms to a very big, the biggest scale, biosphere. Now, if I say this huge knowledge we have to study, we need to study it in a proper manner so that we don't get confused, we don't get messed up, and definitely for that we have developed the thing called biological organization, where the things are successive, where everything is arranged in different levels. We say successive levels of biological organization. The hierarchy we will study now. See, different atoms make up different molecules. For example, if I say inside a leaf there is chlorophyll molecule, so that is made up of different atoms. See, there are different atoms making up the chlorophyll molecule, and molecules like chlorophyll, and then there are other pigment molecules. There are different molecules that will make up an cell organelle, for example chloroplast here, and different cell organelles will make up a cell. For example, mesophyll cells of a leaf which contain the chloroplast. So atoms make up molecules make up cell organelles will make up a cell, and the different cells make up tissues. Different cells make up tissues, different tissues make up organs. If I say in the leaf, there are different cells. For example, mesophyll cells, pensate, spongy hair, they are making up the dermal tissue system. And here see, xylem, phloem, they will make up vascular tissue system. Here the cells of epidermis make up dermal. Okay, what I said. See, cells of epidermis make up dermal tissue system. Xylem, phloem make up a vascular tissue system. If I say mesophyll cells, they will make up ground tissue system. I think by mistake I said dermal. No, mesophyll cells will make up ground tissue system. Okay, so there are different types of cells that make up tissues. Different tissues make up organs. For example, that was leaf there. Organs make up organ system. For example, shoot system there, and that will make up an organism. For example, plant there. Now, if I say organisms, the organisms of a particular species living in a particular area, particular specific area where the organisms of a particular species live and they interbreed with each other, those organisms make up the population of that particular species in a given area. For example, if I say that leaf was of some particular species, for example, that leaf was of this lupine plant, right? Lupine is not a tree, right? It's a small plant. Okay, so lupine population will be made, right? Okay, see, I'm giving the example that is given in Campbell. Here you can see lupine. So the population of lupines here. Here you can see an organism, mule deer. Its population living in a particular area, right? And which area we are talking about? This is North American mountain meadow. North American mountain meadow, right? You can see here. Okay. Now if I say, we saw in North American mountain meadow population of lupine also. Shall I write the spelling of lupine? Yeah. Which plant is this? Lupine. And so this is the population of lupine, and this is the population of mule deer. M-U-L-E, mule deer. So there are, here you can see different trees also. So its population, so there are populations of different organisms living in a particular area, they make up community. That community is also known as biosynosis. So that will include populations of different species, population of different species living in a particular area. Now, if I say in that area along with community, you include the air which the organisms breathe, water which the organisms drink, so the soil on which the plants grow, the soil in which there are different microbes. So the living along with non-living on which the organisms depend in a given area, that is known as ecosystem. So living is biotic, non-living is abiotic on which the organisms depend. Though biotic plus abiotic factors in a given area is known as ecosystem. That is known as an ecosystem. Okay. Now, here you can see the ecosystem in North American mountain meadows. See, North America is a particular area. This North American mountain meadow is a particular given area. So here this is an example of ecosystem with different communities. For example, mule deer, lupines. With a community of different organisms, right? For example, mule deer, lupines plus the abiotic factors on which these organisms depend, right? Now, ecosystems. One more thing I should tell you: meadow is an ecosystem. It is a place where mostly we get the small herbs, right? We will get grasses. Okay. Now, if I say mountain meadow, right? Or leave that right now. If I say different ecosystems, different ecosystems are a part of biomes. So what is biome? Biome is also biotic plus abiotic, that is living things plus the non-living things on which the organisms depend, right? Air, water, soil. But it is not in particular one area. There are multiple regions on the earth where you can see similar climates and similar organisms living, whether it is vegetation or animals, right? Different types of organisms are there. So biomes, we can say it has a particular climate, particular temperature, particular precipitation, rainfall, right? Precipitation. So the areas on the earth where there is similar climate along with similar organisms make up a particular biome. For example, desert biome. There can be different deserts, right? Having similar climates, similar organisms. Maybe species are different, but organisms are similar, right? In different places of the world. So there can be different biomes. Ecosystems are the part of biomes because that are in a particular given area. There can be different types of biomes, right? Okay, you can see marine biome, freshwater biome, which can be river, ponds, right? Tundra, it is the one having cold climate. And for example, if I say alpine tundra, it is having mostly grasses. Alpine tundra is on the mountains. So North American mountain meadow having these lupines, wildflowers, small plants is having an example of alpine tundra if you go on height. And if the height is less, you can see here the forest, right? So North American mountain meadow is having both the biomes. Forest also, there are temperate coniferous forests. You can see the forests. You can see the alpine tundra. right? So here you can see in the same region different types of biomes are also there in the same area, but because of different heights different types of organisms grow. Different type of climate will be there on different heights. Okay, now if I say boreal forest, these are the forests in cold areas, cold climate. Temperate forest, the tropical rainforest. So there is a biome category called forest in which different types of forests will come. There will be savannas, deserts, grasslands. So different types of biomes we will study later, and all these biomes, right, together make up the biosphere, the largest scale, the biggest scale. Okay, so what is biosphere? All the life on earth, simply all the life on earth, and the things on which the life depends, that is atmosphere, hydrosphere, lithosphere. Atmosphere is air. Without air we can't survive, we can't breathe. Hydrosphere, without water we can't live, right? Lithosphere is the rocky and soily part of earth on which plants grow, on which we live. Okay, so we saw the different levels of biological organizations. Now I'll tell you some concepts, right? I gave you the example of this North American mountain meadow also. I will tell you something called reductionism, and I'll tell you something called emergent properties. Reductionism, simply zoom in. Emergent properties, zoom out. Okay, see. And one more thing I'll tell you, systems biology. Okay, now see, reductionism. I told you the study of life is very complex. So if you see the biosphere level, right, an ecosystem, then communities, populations, organisms, organ systems, organs, tissues, cells, organelles, molecules, atoms. So from the top level you went to the level of atom. That is simply you zoom in. So to study we break down complex systems into simpler components. That's it. That is reductionism. Okay, now you have to zoom out. You zoom out from the level of atom to molecules. See, different atoms make of a molecule, for example chlorophyll. So you got a special property that these atoms made up a molecule, chlorophyll, which has particular properties. So next thing, if this chlorophyll molecule interacts with different other molecules inside a chloroplast, all of them together perform a special function called photosynthesis, right, that happens inside the chloroplast. But when these different molecules interacted with each other, then we got the property of photosynthesis. Now the new property emerged because of the interaction of the molecules. We got the cell organelle. Inside the organelle we got the beautiful function of chlorophyll. And which organelle we are talking about? Chloroplast. Now see, different cell organelles make up a beautiful cell, which is the structural and functional unit of life, right? The basic structural and functional unit of life is cell. So cell is the one that is capable of surviving alone, but structural and functional unit of life. Structural and functional unit of life is cell. But it does not mean that one cell of your body can survive outside. Simply, there are different organisms, unicellular and multicellular. Unicellular organisms can survive, right? So, if you are multicellular, definitely we are multicellular. I'm made up of different types of cells, multiple cells. We can serve. Our single cell will not make up an organism. Okay. Okay, one thing. Single cell zygote can make up an organism. You came out of zygote, right? You made up of zygote. Okay, so you were one cell one day. That structural and functional unit of life. Whatever it is, structural and functional unit of life is cell. Okay. Now, if I say different cells in your body, suppose they make up a tissue. So those cells together give some property to the tissue. For example, if I say dermal tissue system, in this leaf, the cells of the epidermis together make up the dermal tissue system. These mesophyll cells, different types of mesophyll cells, they make up ground tissue system. So, different properties will emerge at different levels. In the dermal tissue system, they will make up the covering of the leaf or stem, right, or root, and give the body of the plant a covering. That property could not have came out of one cell. That came out of the tissue. So new property emerged at next higher level of organization. These different tissues like dermal tissue system, ground tissue system, right? Epidermis is part of dermal tissue system. Mesophyll cells are part of ground tissue system. Then xylem phloem are part of vascular tissue systems. They together made up an organ called leaf here. So you got a special thing, leaf. So simply differ. Okay, so when you zoom out, you go at successive levels of organizations, new properties emerge, and that are emergent properties. New properties emerge at successive levels of biological organization. Okay, these things were missing in the concept of reductionism. Reductionism is to simplify the concepts, and you study particular thing. For example, if we have to study a molecule DNA, that DNA you take out of the cell. That simple DNA cannot produce a new human being. But if you go up, the DNA is inside a cell organelle called nucleus. If it is eukaryotic cell, if it is prokaryotic, it will be simply there because there will be no nucleus. Okay, so that has to be inside the cell, and that has to interact with other molecules. For example, if DNA has to be copied, it has to be replicated, you need other molecules, you need enzymes, different raw materials for the synthesis of DNA. So when they will combine, they will interact, you will get the beautiful property of replication. That will happen inside a cell. At least there should be a minimum one cell if the organism is unicellular. So in the concept of reductionism, that emergent properties that occur, that happen because of the interactions of the different components is not there. Reductionism is simply to simplify the concept and to understand different things. For example, James Watson and Francis Crick, they have to study the molecule DNA. They gave the structure of DNA, which makes up the chemical basis of inheritance, biological inheritance. Okay, now if I say systems biology, in this what we study in the systems biology, simply system biology. So we have to study the biological systems and the interactions among the parts. So you have to explore the biological system. We study the biological systems by studying interactions among its parts. And the system can be of any level. It can be of the level of a single cell, for example mesophyll cell. It can be of the level of an big organism, right? For example, you say the entire plant. It can be at the level of a colony of an ants. It can be the level of a desert biome also. It can be at the level of ecosystem. So the system what you are going to study can be at any level of biological organization. Simply the level you are going to study, the components of that level will be studied. We have to study the interactions among those components. For example, if you study the level of mesophyll cell, so inside the mesophyll cell you have to study the interactions among different organelles, right? Okay, we can study the interactions among chlorophyll with other molecules, so those things will make up light reactions, right? And then inside the chloroplast, right, you study. Then inside the cell you study the light reactions, dark reactions, all these things we will study later, the different reactions in photosynthesis. Simply we have to study the interactions, and this systems biology is an interdisciplinary approach means there are multiple disciplines allowed, right? Biology is there, plus you need computers, you need mathematical data to analyze the different interactions, different reactions, metabolic things going on inside a cell. For example, if I say what about our circadian rhythm? Why it is so accurate that you normally what happens, I wake up at 4:30, so daily I wake up at 4:30. I don't need an alarm because there is an alarm set inside my body that I have to wake up at 4:30. There are multiple molecules involved. There is interaction among different molecules. Two examples I will give: sleep hormone, that is melatonin, and wake up hormone, that is cortisol. But it's not these two chemicals. There are multiple chemicals involved. So we have to study the interactions among them, right? Okay. If I say at the level of an ecosystem, suppose carbon dioxide level increases, what will be the impact on the entire ecosystem? What will be the impact on the entire biosphere, right? There can be multiple things. Carbon dioxide increased, global warming will be there. Inside the oceans, acidification will be there. Those things we can study later. Now, there is a thing called structure meets function. Structure meets function. I told you in earlier video that structure meets function when we study biological organization. For example, you can see this beautiful creature called hummingbird. This is the organism, this is the homeothermic organism having having the highest metabolic rate, right, among homeotherms. Okay, this is the bird. This is the only bird that can fly backwards, that can fly upside down. So it can fly backwards, it can fly upside down, it can fly forwards, it can fly anyway. And thanks to its structure, right, the structure of, for example, I give the structure of the wings here, or we can see the structure of this. Okay, we have ball and socket joint in our shoulders, right? This is the only bird, hummingbird, that has ball and socket joint, right, on the shoulders. So it can rotate its wings 180 degree. Normally it rotates it in the figure 8 in horizontal direction. It may, when the wings, right, rotate, they make a figure of 8 in horizontal direction. so that help us, this structure will help this bird in hovering at one place. Okay, so what is hovering? Hover. Hovering means staying in this air for particular time. That see, the hummingbird has to use its long beak to drink, right, the sugary syrup, that is nectar from the flowers, and for that it has to stay in one place, and that is hovering. And this is the only bird that show true hovering. And this hovering function, which thing helps? The structure, the ball and socket joint, right? So this is one example. And then this bird has multiple adaptations, big flight muscles and many things. But right now what you need, this beautiful example, structure meets function. So this is the bird which can fly backwards, it can fly forwards, right, it can fly upside down. So once it has drunk the nectar, it will fly backwards without being trapped in the petals, right? So structure meets function. Thank you so much. Bye bye.